as you rightly said, that the early childhood care that has been, put on literally the center stage by this national policy, which was definitely missing, and that is a wonderful step forward, no doubt about it. But medium of instruction, when we are talking about, we have to firstly understand that what is our aim. By that, what I'm trying to say is that we have always taken pride in the fact that India is a nation which has always been able to create a mass of youth, employable youth, which is fluent in English. So we cannot really run away from that very fact that English will remain and has to be a prime language. At the end of the day, today we are also talking in English. We are doing a webinar in India, but we are talking in English, all of us. So English does come in the center stage. But having said that, I personally feel that the concept that the national policy has used the word whenever possible is actually the point which needs to be underlined, because that is where the policy makers have actually left it to the creative teacher. That, at the end of the day, the aim is understanding and not rote learning. So please ensure that the child understands the concept. So if to make the child understand the concept, you need to divert and move to the bilingual or the local language, you please go ahead and do that. If you need to use some local examples, please do that, because there are going to be certain things which are demographically, geographically, culturally very, very diverse in our country. So, you can't use the same example that is probably there in a textbook, which a child might comprehend sitting in, let's say in Hyderabad, and somebody sitting in West Bengal and somebody sitting in the J&K. They might not comprehend that same example in equality, and they might not be able to get it. So at times the teacher will have to move to that bilingual language. That is one thing that I'd like to say. Secondly, when we say about that, that the national policy has not much talked about the fact that, what will be those languages and how the textbooks are going to be created. I somehow feel that, that is not, that's something which a lot of people have been questioning, that, are they really going to make books in all the languages? That in a nation like ours, where we have 22 official languages and I don't know how many dialects, that is not really going to be possible. But at the end of the day, the onus is going to be eventually on the teachers, that you please have something which looks more in terms like a sandwich method, that you have one particular language which is going to be the main one. If it's a state board or a school, it can be the state language. If it is a CBSE, ISC, IB school, there naturally English is the main language. But you have the freedom to move to your local language to ensure that understanding, because that is something which the national policy continuously emphasizes. Understanding has to be above rote learning. So till we make the child understand, we cannot move away from the rote learning aspect of it. So that is what I would say, that is where the teacher will have to be creative, and you understand where to use the local language and where to go by the language which is required for the child to understand.
NEP has clearly stated that wherever possible, we can have the mother tongue also as a medium of instruction. Now, I mean, lot has been said about this, right from the UN body, UNESCO, and various other theories are there wherein it has been stressed that learning through mother tongue or in the child's mother tongue, helps develop critical skills, thinking skills, and not only that, it helps in the retention also. So, and they feel comfortable about it when they do it in their mother tongue. So this kind of, but then the problem there is that ours is a very multicultural, multilingual country. Of course, 22 scheduled languages, but then we have at least about 270 other languages, recognized mother tongues apart from these. But the simple thing is that 96% of the population speak these 22 languages. So now let us talk about the present condition. The distractions are many for youngsters. We know about kids. We know how hard-pressed parents are. Both of them are working. So, they may not have much time, to spend with children. Earlier, we had grandparents telling children, stories in their mother tongues. So I think that is one missing factor. Today, of course, you have Audible and other things, but then you had somebody at home who would tell, the parents would tell, or somebody, usually the grandparents, giving. So you had moral instruction, so linguistic instruction, along with that. So the cultural values were there, and you also learned about life skills. So everything was there. All together it was. So so that I think is missing today. So we need to address that. So teachers, parents, community, we all have to get together, bring back, we all grew up on a dose of Chandamama, Amar Chitrakatha, the Jataka tales, Panchatantra and all that. So these, wherever possible, the parents can be involved, the linguistic, the community itself can be involved in the classroom. They could have plays, they could have songs, so these kind of, when you interweave these things into the classroom with the, influence of the mother tongue, I think it becomes more, what should I say? I mean, it is kind of, it clearly etched in the minds of the young children. We are talking about age 6 onwards, right? So that is the formal education. So that is when it starts. So the pre-primary, and it's so nice exactly to have these under the formal structure. I think that's one other kudos to the government for formalizing it, bringing that into the umbrella of, formalized education. So mother tongue, all said and done, gives children, a kind of confidence. It builds their confidence. So any kind of skill, it can be numerical skills, or it can be linguistic, anything. I think it can be, the mode of instruction. Of course, the lingua franca usually happens to be Hindi or English, Hindi upwards, north upwards, eastern side, Bengali maybe, south English is there. So whatever it is, you can have that as well as the mother tongue. So I think this kind of the bilingual or multilingual approach enhances the capacity of students. It will bring out the best in them. This will also set, these are the foundational years for children. And as you already mentioned rightly, so the brain, of course, the growth happens maximum during this young childhood age, young childhood. So these early years. So I think at that point of time, when we are introducing these things, it is going to pave the way for them to think, we are talking about, today it's going away from rote learning. Okay, so I think it would set the trend in them to think critically, to think confidently, before the others, they need not feel shy, no inhibitions whatsoever. So that again, so experiential kind of education, all that, I think with the mother tongue, all this is given a fillip, I would say.
Right.
Basically, sum up what the other two panelists said, I would be more or less reiterating the same fact, though most of the researchers, they have concluded that learning achievement is enhanced when the children are taught in their mother tongue for at least the first 6 years of school. So before the second language, the main language of instruction is introduced. But on the other hand, bilingual or multilingual education has been found to increase a student's self-confidence and self-esteem. This is what the UNESCO study done in 2016 says. So in a bilingual model, students continue to use both the mother tongue and second language as the languages of instruction for a range of the academic subjects throughout the primary and the secondary. Because if there has to be a sudden transition from mother tongue to the second language, if it is too rapid, then the risk is that the students will not attain full mastery of either of the language. So the mother tongue based bilingual education, the use of the child's mother tongue alongside a second language is now the recommended strategy. Was what the NEP is also stressing upon. Just take the case of, because we are in Gurgaon and we are dealing with a set of, parents who are in transferable job. Just think about a student whose parents are in a transferable job. he would face a serious issue adapting to the local language every time they make a move. So just think from that child's perspective. So while many countries may have the national language policy that supports the use of the local languages, but such policies, I would say, are more on paper and not always implemented in the actual classroom. So comprehensive language planning actually requires an in-depth situational analysis of the socio-linguistic and the educational context of the community. So it depends on a lot of factors, I would say. But yes, the bilingual or the multilingual approach, I mean, taking both the languages along, when the children come to us in nursery, you know, and when the teacher is giving an instruction in English and she looks at the faces of the children, if she sees that there is a blank expression, she would quickly switch over to Hindi. I mean, to make it more understandable. So the teachers have to, as rightly pointed out by Ms. Shwetangana and Dr. Sai also. So the teacher has to look at the responses of the students. And the point is that they must understand the content or whatever is being, communicated to the children. So that is the whole point. The teacher will have to use a lot of her intelligence, a lot of her gut feeling, and a lot of her common sense, and look at the expressions and the responses of the children. So definitely multilingual or bilingual, so to say. Yeah.